I really like the universal basic income proposal. I think this is something that has a lot of potential, and being able to help us.
And if anyone wants my endorsement, all you have to do is come out for universal basic income. Say every American should get $1,000 a month, and then I will be there with you on the trail the next day.
I'm going to continue to carry this torch of a universal basic income. So to our many Yang Gang friends, I hope that you'll join our campaign so that we can invest in the American people instead of regime change wars, military adventurism, and a new Cold War and nuclear arms race. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. I hope you'll join us.
Oh, how's it yangin', dudes? My name is Sean. Welcome back to my channel. And holy shit, Tulsi Gabbard not only formally endorsed UBI, but she says that she wants to carry the torch for Andrew Yang. I mean, hell, you heard it from Andrew Yang himself. By default, he will support the nominee, but all you have to do is come out and endorse UBI, and he will be with you the very next day. Okay, so there's just a crap ton of questions surrounding all this. Of course, what would Yang's response be? Is the Yang Gang taking well to this? Is there any overlap between the campaigns, which there obviously is, but how deep does it go? Will Tulsi, make this official, as one of her flagship policies? What is Tulsi's history with UBI? Has she been consistent on it, or at the very least open-minded in the past? Why is the Yang Gang way more open for Tulsi than, open for Bernie? And does this mean, a potential Tulsi Yang ticket? And okay, so I've compiled a bunch of clips, so we can actually thoroughly vet through all this stuff and actually break it all down for you guys. Okay, so you always gotta smack some gravy on the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? The algorithm needs the gravy. 1 like equals 1 gravy. 1 mashed taters equals 1 share. You gotta share the video, get mashed taters, and of course you want your gravy to go with your mashed taters. It's obvious, but really though, little videos like this, MSNBC's Chuck Todd attacks Bernie. I know it's not a Yang video, so a lot of you guys might either not got notifications or just might not have found interest in it. But here's the thing with the YouTube. Yang stuff is going to eventually start tapering off, the search results, and and YouTube's going to think that it's not very popular and they're not going to push it. So what we need to do as Yang tubers is to branch out a little bit of our videos to gain the favor of the algorithm in different ways, and constantly just introduce, keep putting Yang's ideas inside those videos while masking it as something a little bit different. Now, of course, you obviously want to stick with the story in there, but you obviously want to compare it to Yang, and that's what I'm doing. So you guys always got to make sure you go back and watch little videos like this. If it's not a Yang video, don't worry, there's going to be Yang. Don't like and share those type of videos, they're not going to do as well, and the Yang channels who do put out different content will just kind of slowly taper off. It's just one of those, YouTube algorithm things. So anyways, let's get into this story right here. All right, so let's start here with this little summary, just to ease us in before we see if it's, justified to join our movements together. It's by Caucus 99% Caucus, whatever you want to call it, 99% Caucus up here, right? And they're the only people covering this. There's no mainstream articles covering this, and these guys only have it up here for archive's sake, history's sake, right? So, and the media obviously is not going to touch anything Yang Tulsi related, especially if they're combined. 2 of the most powerhouse outside establishment candidates shaking the establishment to its core. They're not going to promote or push or even, acknowledge the idea of something that could be threatening to them. I mean, they literally are just too smart to give airtime to real outsiders bringing in real change and, ending their rotten ass gravy train. You know what I'm saying? That's the wrong flavor, you fuckwads. Alright, so Yang Gang is keen on Tulsi. After New Hampshire, Tulsi is on a plane today to South Carolina to campaign there, wisely skipping Nevada because that's going to be a complete shit show. Since Yang dropped out, Reddit has been littered with comments from Yang supporters saying they're joining the Tulsi posse. One essay there states, college student from Yang Gang, here you guys Tulsi supporters look like you could use an enthusiastic internet army. Tulsi's interest in universal basic income, which Yang essentially brought to the table, has made many who supported him interested in Tulsi candidacy. The Tulsi and Yang campaigns have been very friendly towards each other, even before Tulsi's interest in UBI. So with Yang's exit from the race, you could bode unexpectedly well for Tulsi moving forward. Okay, so while they are friendly, and we know that, you know, Tulsi has come out in support of universal basic income and wants to carry the torch, it's been a couple of days, and Andrew Yang still has not made a single comment about that yet. So it kind of juxtaposes his MSNBC comments that we seen in the very beginning of the video, right? But, you know, it's just one of those things. You know, Andrew Yang could be easily just cooling down from, you know, the stress of the election trail and having to focus on future Democratic Party rallies for other, you know, candidates. May not, you know, have the time to properly assess and flesh out a decision. So, you know, I'll keep you guys posted as soon as he does, you know, our boy surfaces and says something, you know what I mean? I'll definitely make a video about that because I'm looking forward to see what he says. I hope he doesn't ignore her, because it goes against what he says, and he's always made good on his promises. So, you know, he's not somebody who just dodge a bullet like that, right? So, all right, so back to the article. Is Yang taking well? Is there a huge overlap? Well, if you go over here, you'll see a lot of stuff like right here, you know, the Yang Gang, I'm saddened our guy has dropped out. I just donated a lot of money a day ago. And they, you know, they talk about how it's disheartening. And down here, you know, it says, you know, I hear you. I was in a few hundred in the last month for Tulsi. A lot of people spend a lot of time volunteering in New Hampshire, and I just feel disappointed about the results. So there's definitely a bunch of kindred spirits here. You know, the two campaigns have constantly embraced each other with open arms. I've always covered Tulsi favorable on my channel. Tulsi has always been covered, you know, favorable on most Yang Tuber channels if they do cover her. Every time we've ever engaged Tulsi supporters in the comment section, they've never been harsh. They've always been open and willing to listen to our ideas as we are to them. And the Bernie Bros are just not that way. They normally attack you even if you have the slightest disagreement. There's no agreeing to disagree, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so I think it's safe to say that the Tulsi and Yang alliance has been pretty strong for quite some time, right? And obviously only growing stronger, like every day apparently, and now especially since this has happened. So since Tulsi seems to have a pretty good track record, you know, I went to her website to see if she has updated her website and you know, made, you know, some sort of UBI change. And on her main issues, her main policies, there is no big bold UBI link for anything. There's maybe she's buried something within some of these, but so far she hasn't made any sort of flagship policy there. So maybe you'll take that into your consideration for Tulsi Gabbard's campaign. So far, you know, it's only been a couple of days, so it might take a while to update some stuff if she's super serious about it. If she really wants the gang support, this website will be updated with some sort of UBI proposal on it for sure. You know, and the earliest updates go back to January 22nd, 2020. So, you know, so far there's not any UBI updates per se, but at the very least we know that she is consistent and at least, you know, expressed open-mindedness, maybe a little bit of hesitation, maybe a little bit of misinformation, just not understanding what's going on, but she's not one to pander. So let's walk through Tulsi's history of her UBI comments. This one here is from 2017, I think, where she is in Hawaii, and I think maybe an early gang guy kind of steps up and asks about UBI, and this is her response.
A universal basic income has earned support from the likes of Martin Luther King Jr. to Milton Friedman and Noam Chomsky, and was actually almost enacted in the 1970s. Would you support a universal basic income for all citizens to guarantee that we could all afford our basic needs? And if not, what was your alternative plan?
Thank you. How many folks here have heard of a universal basic income? There's a few different versions, and this is something that I'm looking at and studying, Tyler. I don't have a position on it yet. There are a few countries in Europe specifically who are enacting some pilot programs of this in one form or another. And basically it would, there are a few different plans that exist, but it would essentially provide for this basic income, this check that would be delivered to people, cash, instead of a whole variety of the other social programs that exist. So whether it is a Section 8 housing or a welfare check or food stamps. When you think about all of the other social programs that the federal government provides, this universal basic income would supplant those. It would be instead of those, so that someone, as Tyler said, would be empowered to make their own decisions about where they live or what kind of food they eat and what they do with this money, and with the goal being empowering people to be able to get out of poverty.
Okay, so there you have it. It looks like a little bit of hesitation. She wasn't really willing to make a stand on it one way or another. It doesn't seem like she really has all of her ideas fleshed out on it. It seems like there's a little bit of a misinformation talking about some of the different social programs and how it's supposed to be just an end-all be-all to those, which is not necessarily true, especially with regards to Yang's proposal. But Yang has opened a lot of people's eyes about that kind of stuff too, so she would naturally change her mind a little bit, and she's not against it there, right? So later, she appeared on NHPR or NRPH, whatever you want to call it, and she definitely had started to seem like she was coming around to UBI. Still a little hesitant, but definitely a lot more gung-ho about it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick.
What do you think of a guaranteed basic income, as at least one other presidential candidate is pushing for?
Yeah, it's something I'm actually taking a serious look at. I think there's opportunity there to look at, for example, many of the different programs that we have in place to provide assistance to people, and seeing how we can perhaps bring down the overhead cost of that bureaucracy and provide a basic income for folks, dealing with bringing down that overhead cost, and also looking at how we can help lift people out of poverty and provide some level of certainty. It wouldn't be enough to completely replace someone's income by any means, but to be able to have that basic level of economic security, I think is something that we should work towards. So I'm looking at it and seeing exactly how something like that could be done.
Okay, and then she goes on to get a huge standing ovation at a Nevada rally. Now, this from the previous clip is where she actually makes the tipping point. I think this is a Nevada rally. I'm not 100% sure, but it was the day of or the day before, or potentially the day after, she made her speech or her endorsement of UBI for Andrew Yang. So she gets a huge applause for this. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Economy, what's your administration going to do about automation and about workers that might have their jobs?
Yeah, this automation revolution is a real thing. And I think it's creeping up on Washington, and they're not really paying attention to how much of an impact this is going to make on all of our lives. And I look at it in two ways. There are going to be jobs lost because of it, and that's a very serious thing that we need to address. We also have to look at the opportunity for improving people's quality of life and the kinds of jobs that are available through automation. I really like the universal basic income proposal. I think this is something that has a lot of potential, and being able to help us not only through this transition of automation, but really as we look at empowering people, every one of us. The fact that we're in a place where most Americans are a $500 emergency away from total disaster is unacceptable. Because that $500 emergency can come in a moment, and when you least expect it. It's one family member's accident and need to go to the ER. Things that you can't control, things that are unexpected. So I'm looking into this, but I really like UBI for that very reason, that it provides that freedom and that opportunity for people to not just be chained to their job because they can't survive without it, but to say, hey, here's a way that you can be empowered to pursue the work that you want to do, to pursue the education that you want to, and to use your time as you choose. Thank you. Get one over here.
Man, it almost looked like she's almost ready to make the leap to Yang Gang. You know what I'm saying? If Yang wouldn't have dropped out, I think Tulsi might have joined his ticket. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But 2 days later, or 2 days before, or the day of, or the day before, I can't 100% quite remember because I haven't got the dates all lined out on this one yet. But Tulsi, she went balls deep on UBI, boys. Let's watch it. I love this. Let's watch it. Yeah, boys. Let's watch it. I love this. Let's watch it.
Hey, everybody. We just got into Charleston, South Carolina late last night, and wanted to take a moment this morning before we head out for the day to send a message to my friend Andrew Yang. Andrew, I've so enjoyed getting to know you throughout this campaign, and am really grateful for the friendship that we've developed. You've brought such an incredible energy and creative ideas to this race that's been an inspiration for so many people. And I know you'll continue. You'll continue working for the positive change that we need in our nation as we all work together to usher in a bright future for all Americans. I'm going to continue to carry this torch of a universal basic income that will reinvigorate our middle class and those who are struggling just to make ends meet, bridge the income gap, and unleash an era of entrepreneurship and productivity. So, to our many Yang Gang friends, I hope that you'll join our campaign so that we can invest in the American people instead of regime change wars, military adventurism, and a new Cold War and nuclear arms race. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. I hope you'll join us.
All right, so there you go, guys. You guys seen the evolution of her hesitance to her ultimate acceptance of UBI. It is the future. It's the way automation is taking over jobs. Just look at Walmart. Look at all those self-automated cash registers. For every one of those, there's at least a day shift and a night shift employee who's just out of a job. So, and that's just a common occurrence that everybody can point to. There's so many more stuff like that happening. So, what do I think about all this? As a Yang Tulsi ticket, is it going to happen? Is it official? She hasn't got on her website yet, so I'm going to reserve my opinion on that. I do think that Tulsi is a lot more favorable for the Yang Gang than Bernie Sanders because of reasons like I've said in the past, where the Yang Gang constantly tries to engage the Bernie bros, and with the smallest, tiniest amount of disagreements, and they are just viciously attacking and smearing and putting disinformation out there. And to look at a perfect example right here, I made a community post where I was just trying to cheer up the Yang Gang, where it says, I know this one guy commented, says, I know some of you are bummed about Yang dropping out, but remember, gravy tastes better the second time around. That was a really clever way of saying it, a nice way to, kind of pup up our sadness right there. And of course, a Bernie bro has to come in and says, I want to see how well behaved the Yang Gang is in 2024. Mind you guys only faced a fraction of the Democratic establishment's rigging compared to what Bernie faced 2016. I guarantee you guys who lived it will understand why Bernie bros are the way we are, not as bad as the media portrays us, but aggressive nonetheless. Look, no, this is exactly what I'm saying. There was nothing about Bernie here. Nobody was talking about Bernie. You know what I mean? It's been already a couple of days since he's dropped out, and it was a post that had nothing to do with anything with Bernie, and still there's somebody here being vicious and making up some sort of narrative that we hadn't even been arguing about this post. So obviously, I feel like this needed to have a comment. This is a bold and blatant example of exactly the reason why the Yang Gang would be more favorable to Tulsi over Bernie, because Bernie's constituents, this is the way they act, even unprovoked, right? So we will be in the same as we are now, a non-ideologically driven movement, and Bernie bros' defensive anger may be justified, but at a certain point it becomes inexcusable. When someone defends Bernie overall but disagrees with one or two things, like a little something, the Bernie bros, by and large, then don't go, hey, here is some information of what you disagree on, but thanks on, supporting and defending our guy nonetheless. No, they attack and ignore all context of good, throwing that out the window to gnaw on the bones of tiny disagreements. The Yang Gang and Tulsi camp, could always, be allies, but incessantly attacking anyone with this type of unchained and often misguided anger directed towards people who have honest questions about Sanders, maybe even some undecided or genuinely curious voters as well, effectively shutting off any chance of open-mindedness and constructive dialogue, which holds the potential to sway voters to your camp, and of course vice versa. Because God forbid somebody thinks, someone else's ideas may be valid or just as valid or just as important, and then those same Bernie bros turn around and expect, other people's camps like the Yang Gang to turn and support them after they, berate you and demean you and constantly spread misinformation. You all have personally guaranteed Bernie is the only one spreading his message now and growing the campaign, while the Bernie bros demean and attack those, would-be newcomers. This viciousness is an ever-growing roadblock for the Sanders campaign. This is the Yang Gang's experience, as I have been made aware of it and seen it in practice myself. So please, I hope you take what I've said to heart, as a concerned ally. If there is one lesson to learn that will help Bernie more than anything, and please share it with your fellow Bernie bros, it's this: you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. Alright guys, so there you have it. You know, if you guys like this video, go ahead and, you know, smack a like if you haven't already. If you made this far in, give yourself a pat on the back and go check out some of these lower viewed videos so we can keep this algorithm, this gravy train rolling, guys. I love you guys, and let me know what you think about Tulsi in the comment section below, because, you know, I'm leaning more towards her than I am anybody else. I'm still on the fence of not voting, so, you know, let me know what you think, guys. I love you.